Well, it's terrifying. My body crumpled is the best way to describe it. The effect is to be paralyzed. So I could hear, but I could not see. I could not move. Even eyelids. I couldn't move. My entire face was shot.
So your only conversation that you really can have is with God.
Correct.
This is Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God. Those moments of collision between heaven and earth, encounter stories, angels, divine intervention, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences. I'm your host, Trapper Jack. Welcome. This is a crazy story, crazy good. We're going to be talking to Robert Koonce. Let's just start out with you right there where you are. If you can, just close your eyes. If you're driving, try to keep one open. But anyway, otherwise, close your eyes and try to picture that you can't see. You can't move your body at all. You can't smell. You can't communicate with anybody. Not really. I mean, you could, as I said, you can communicate with God. Yeah, but even that, your brain is exploding with what's going on inside your body or not going on, and all you can do is your body can feel. It feels pain. And you can think. You have your mind. So that's why the title about being held captive. He's being held captive inside his own body, inside his own mind. And yes, because this is Touched by Heaven, do we have supernatural experiences and all this? Of course we do. We do have visits from the good guys and the bad guys.
Morning, Trapper.
Well, how we doing, Robert?
Fantastic.
Robert has a very unique story. And Robert himself is a very unique guy. I was listening this morning to a reflection on one of the fruits of the Holy Spirit, and that fruit is joy. Not happiness. Happiness comes and goes. No, joy is something else. Joy is deeper. Joy has an understanding to it of the order of things. He understands this isn't just some random thing happening, but that there is a purpose in all things because God's at the top of the order of things. And in fact, one of the hospital staffers, when asked to describe Robert in a word, the word she used was joy. And Robert is a guy who has always been blessed in his relationship with God. He never faded away. He's always been in.
I was always in it. From a very early age, the faith grabbed my imagination is the best way to say it. And I was intrigued by it and loved it and asked a lot of questions and was always altar serving, always involved in the parish, always asking about what's behind the curtain, how do things work. And I never had a period of time where I was away from the faith in any substantive way. So it's kind of a boring childhood.
No, but altar servers, altar boys then and all that sometimes leads to young boys thinking about priesthood. Did you?
Yes. I actually discerned with the Capuchin Franciscans throughout my college years. And then towards the end of my college years, discerned that wasn't the direction to go.
Your degree's in what?
Classics, the study of ancient Greek and Latin.
Robert now works for the Cleveland Catholic Diocese. He plays an important role of kind of one of the connecting fibers, if you will, of the local parishes to the diocese and the bishop and all. Going back, your story as far as why we are gathered here today has to do with something that happened just over a year ago out of the blue and took you into areas of faith that one could not have anticipated.
No, absolutely not.
Feel free. What was the day?
So the day was May 12th. It was Mother's Day of 2024, and I felt off, as these things typically start, and off enough that I felt that I should end up in the emergency room. And went there with my wife, and over the course of the next couple of days, I essentially lost complete control of all of my motor functions and ended up within 4 days intubated, completely. Well, the technical term is demyelinated, but the effect is to be paralyzed, but fully conscious, but unable to open my eyes. So I could hear, but I could not see. I could not move. And the doctors, they had a sense of what was wrong with me, but they didn't have a strong confirmation.
When you completely shut down, you mentioned the myelin, and I'm trying to remember my biology back in the day, and is that like your conductor? Explain how myelin works.
You've got it. Yeah, so myelin is in the sheathing around nerves that allows the electrical current in the nerves to get from point A to point B. You know, you want to lift up your your hand to grab a glass of water. You just do it, right? There's no like, oh, think left hand up 40 degrees to the right. No, you just sort of move. Um, and that ability was gone. I didn't have the ability to move at all.
You had the thought, but it just wouldn't work because where did it go?
Well, it was damaged. What happens is it's an autoimmune disease, so your antibodies turn on themselves and attack the body.
Wow. Your body turns on itself.
Yeah, and this happens in all sorts of autoimmune diseases, most of which are chronic. So think MS or similar diseases. But there is a group of acute autoimmune diseases that you can recover from. And it was on May 16th that after I was intubated.
This is sticking a tube down you.
Correct, down your windpipe to allow you to breathe. And they also stick a feeding tube through your nose directly to your stomach, so they can.
Do they know that do they even know that you can hear? And how do they know that you can hear if you can't do anything?
What I could do was wiggle my feet slightly. And so that allowed me to play a game of 20 questions with family members and medical professionals because I could answer right is yes, left is no.
Did they know to look at your feet?
Yeah, because when you're in that state and you're conscious, you're doing everything you can to try to move something, to try to communicate. And so it was pretty clear that I could move my feet. So my wife helped set up a system of yes and no.
What's going on in your head?
Well, it's terrifying. This must have been day 2. I was in an MRI. The reason I was intubated is I didn't have the strength to clear my throat from mucus buildup. So it's like I'm breathing through a straw in an MRI. And that's uncomfortable, in case you're wondering. And I decided I was going to try to pray, right? And I couldn't pray. I couldn't articulate memorized prayers. I couldn't articulate open-ended prayers. And I decided, and this was a really powerful decision that ended up transforming everything, that the pain itself would be the prayer, because that's all I had. So I would visually imagine people or situations in my life, and then my pain was for them. So as I came to after I was intubated, because after I was intubated, for about a day, they sedated me and realized I hadn't died because I had prepared myself to die. I thought of everything I was going through was a gift. Now, it didn't take the pain away because Jesus is nice, but not that nice, right?
Yeah. Where's
right?
Jonathan Rumi when you want him, right?
Right? Yeah, come on, enter the room, please. But it it kind of weaponized the whole experience for grace. So everything I was going through wasn't meaningless, wasn't pointless, but in fact had a purpose.
You were offering everything up, all that you had.
Yeah.
This is where Paul talks about power is made perfect in weakness. 2 Corinthians, if you're keeping score, this is where he talks about he's content in weakness and in hardships and constraints. And he says, and when I am weak, I am strong. This is what he's talking about. And that's exactly what Robert is doing in this moment.
Completely at the mercy of the medical professionals and my own pain. And I gave it all up.
So your only conversation that you really can have is with God.
Correct.
And all you can do is give him the pain, offering it up for yourself, friends, whoever pops into your mind at the time.
Correct.
Did you ever feel an answer?
Well, the answer sort of unfolded over the next several weeks. After they did identify what was wrong with me, they began a treatment regimen. And what was wrong with me is the Miller-Fisher variant of Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a acute autoimmune disease.
This is pretty rare stuff, I assume.
Yeah, the Miller-Fisher variant has a 1 in a million-ish incidence. It's still kind of a mystery why I developed it. What happened was, as they began the treatment process, my right hand got some functionality, and I know the alphabet and sign language. So that allowed me to, and my wife also knows that alphabet.
Are
So
you kidding
I
me?
was able.
Wait a
No,
minute. I mean, again, odds. What are the odds? How do you know that?
Sister Mary Eileen in fifth grade had a sort of an addition to our curriculum for us to have 10 weeks of learning this alphabet and sign language. Um, and it was funny, all of my grade school classmates whom I know still and either visited me or communicated with me during that time remembered the alphabet.
And
So
you're
all of us,
assuming you're going to use it for someone who's deaf, right?
yeah, not for me who cannot see.
Yeah.
Um, and use any and speak, right? And so, yeah, it came in, let's call it handy without going into the pun too much. But
And how does your wife know it?
similarly, in her grade school experience, I believe she was exposed to it.
Wow. Again, what are the odds? Okay, so
Yeah.
you have that. Now you need a receiver who understands it, obviously beyond your
Yes.
wife. She can't be there the whole time.
No. So a lot of the speech pathologists have taken a course in American Sign Language. And so there were people in the hospital who knew it.
This is fifth grade. This is a long time ago. Did you remember all of it?
The letter F I had troubles with. So my dad would call it my dialect as a joke, but I mispronounced my F's in sign language. One nurse used to hold my hand by my wrist. She'd lift my arm up and she'd say, "Okay, talk." And then I'd say it. So we also created a shorthand for certain things that were common requests. My wife did this so that, if I held a certain letter and didn't have any other letters after it, that meant this. And so
Give an example of what would be simple and repeated.
suction, because as mucus builds up and you need someone to physically suction you.
I just heard my wife in the other room cough. You couldn't do that.
I couldn't do that.
Think about how many times you cough in a day. Do you count now how many times you cough in a day?
No. But
Since finding out about your story, I've been like almost counting how many times. It's so simple. It's that, and you couldn't do it.
Right. So it builds up over time, and you need to be physically suctioned, which is also unpleasant, but it's necessary. Otherwise,
Is it a machine then? They turn that machine on?
No, I never saw it, so I don't know exactly what it looks like, but it's something that they put down the tube or the trach, if you have a trach in, and literally suction you out. Wow. And so you shake when you're being suctioned.
And it hurts.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. Okay. That's for sure.
All right. So suction would be a word that you would shorthand. What else?
Hot or cold. You're when you're at an angle in a bed, you often slip down. And if you can't push yourself up, you feel like you're crunching into yourself. So bed position, because I could feel everything, think about, I don't know how many times have you made a small move in the chair you're sitting in since we started talking. So, if you're in a bed, you move to change and get more comfortable. And so I could feel back pain. So I would say bed position, and they would move me to a different position.
You're like a newborn baby in that we hear a baby cry. Something's wrong, but there's no way of knowing that I'm hot, I'm cold, move me, my head hurts, whatever.
Correct. Yes, that's exactly what it was like.
Wow.
Needing to use the bathroom. Let's just leave it at that.
So they got to hook you up.
Well, yeah. So the front is hooked up,
and the back is he made a mess. Turn him over. Correct. Yeah.
So you got to let people know. I also fortunately lost my sense of smell, so that was a blessing.
So there was humor in this.
Oh, this is the only way to survive.
And you think Jesus wasn't there? Oh my! Look what Robert has to go through. Let's take away smell.
Oh, right. So that was generous of him,
wasn't it?
Yeah, small gifts are the most meaningful, I guess.
I just had a flash, and I'm trying to, how do I say this? Perhaps there was a reason why you couldn't make the letter F, just to keep you from swearing. Have you considered this? Well, again, a gift from Jesus.
Well, there's a shorthand symbol that works as well when you need to
Is it
express
the
that.
same one we
So,
use?
yes.
Okay, just checking. See where we go with this. Okay, and we're getting to some. In fact, I don't know, when do you want to go into some of the more spiritual things that God
Well,
God was there and
yeah,
whoever else was there.
lots of folks were there. So one of the things I did back when I was just signing is I carefully signed. It was actually to the pastor of my parish when he came to visit. Was I told him to tell the parish that my pain is my gift to them, and he used the feast of Corpus Christi actually to last year to share that. And in the Eucharistic prayer, where the priest says, "My sacrifice and yours," his question was, "What is your sacrifice you bring to this table? You have a parishioner who's bringing it all to the table on your behalf." Um, and so that it makes it makes the hospital bed an altar, and the pain a sacrifice, like Melchizedek of old, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that and it's opening up the doors of grace, you're bound to have some, shall we call it, pushback. So one of the things that of course happens when you're intubated is you're given a lot of pain modifications, because and fentanyl is the one that they use the most, because you've got a tube in your throat. If you could feel it fully in your throat, you would try to pull it out,
Right.
right?
And why is fentanyl the go-to?
It works, but it obviously it has its other uses recreationally. In that most of the drugs that are used recreationally are much more intense and not monitored, obviously, as they are in a medical setting. So it's not a lot of fentanyl that's given to control the pain, but it's enough that it causes hallucinations.
Okay.
So that was the other problem, is I was having drug induced hallucinations while unable to move and speak and open my eyes, um, which added to the bizarreness of everything. But there was a particular night, and I say the hallucination because it's uncertain what exactly occurred, but um, I had hit the call button, which was in and of itself a miracle to figure out which button when you can't see, and they don't exactly have them marked for individuals who can't see. So I hit the call button to call a nurse because I need to be suctioned. This is the middle of the night. And an individual comes into the room, and you can tell a lot by when you're not able to see. You can tell a lot about a person's weight or a person's the pace of their gait, and people are unique in that. You can tell if it's a new person or someone familiar. This was someone who was not familiar. I did not felt this person come into the room before. And they took the kit that they used to do the suctioning. He took it and threw it onto my chest, which was also odd. Well, that's a weird way to get started, right? To rustle through a drawer and then toss this thing onto the patient. And he began the suctioning process, but then kind of stopped halfway through and started yanking and pulling on all of my breathing apparatus. And I kept signing NO and STOP furiously because that's all I could do. I was being attacked. And then he stopped and then turned on some strange music on the device, because you could connect to the TV and such through it, and then started to dance around me. So this is really bizarre. And then he left the room, but I could feel him sitting outside of the room. And so the nurse actually does come, and I try to tell her that I was attacked, and she tells me, "No, Robert, you weren't attacked." But I kept repeating it, and she kept reassuring me. But I could feel that individual still sitting out there. And then the next night, I could feel him sitting out there, but he didn't enter the room. And then the third night, again, I could feel him out there pacing, just out there sitting. And then he finally comes in and he leans into me and whispers, "I'm done with you," and leaves. Now, Trapper, I do not know if that was just a hallucination, some deep psychological Jungian slideshow kind of thing, or an actual, attack of a demonic presence, or all three. But either way, the effect is the same, right? It sort of rewires the wiring upstairs.
It sounds too orderly to be just hallucinogenic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
There's
But I don't want to jump to conclude. I mean, I was on fentanyl, right?
Yeah, no, I know, I get you. And actually, we've had a few guests who, for different reasons, were part of different rituals and ceremonies and such, and they were looking to get a heightened degree of spirituality and all that kind of stuff. And it will take you there. It will take you there. Yeah. So to say, I don't want to dismiss this either, because, like I say, the orderliness of this enemy, evil attack, day 1, day 2, day 3, and then I'm done with you. It just sounds so orderly, and it does sound demonic.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
As you say, the result was all the same. It's evil, it's enemy, it's something else going on here.
Right. It's unnerving to no end.
Yeah. Boy, how vivid is that still with you?
Very, very vividly. That one sort of was the only one there was a room full of clowns laughing at me, but that didn't last that long. Yeah. There were also you stuck in some landscape that looks like, something maybe you've seen from northern Norway, and you're watching the northern lights, and it's vast and big, and the typical sort of mind altering type of results of hallucinations.
Right. Obviously, I mean, and are you mid-40s, somewhere on there?
Yes, I am.
Obviously, the enemy sees what you do. The enemy doesn't like what you do. Anybody involved in church life, spirituality, communication between hierarchy and parishes, and all of that, obviously they're not thrilled with what you do, and so it fits.
Yeah, it does. It fits, and it fits. The way evil works is to pick off the weak ones in the herd. That's how a predator works, right? You go after the injured zebra when you're a lion, and the ones who are alone. So there I am, alone in a room and injured. It's prey for the predator.
And how alone did you feel?
Well, terribly.
Was it good timing for the attack?
Yes, in the middle of the night. Sure, that's the most lonely time at a hospital. Least amount of activity, families nowhere near.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fits again.
Yeah. The pattern is there.
To what degree did it work or not work on you? And to what degree did the "I'm done with you" make you say, "Thank you, Jesus," or whatever?
Well, I think I got the answer a couple of days later. I'd been transferred to a long-term acute care facility to help me get off the ventilator. And I was off fentanyl at this point. And it's late afternoon. No one's in the room. And I can see, even though I can't see, right? My eyes are closed. I can see with my mind's eye, as it were, another hospital bed laying next to me on the other side of the room, let's say 5 feet away. And in that bed is our Lord, who has a trach in his throat, just like mine, or at least how I envisioned what mine looked like. And Mary is caring for him. And then they both turned and looked at me with a look that doesn't have words, but it has an effect, right? It's the kind of look that if there's absolutely no courage within you, at the end of that look, you're just a big ball of courage. And that lasted but 10 seconds, say.
And you are fully conscious?
Fully conscious, fully awake.
And you're off fentanyl?
Off fentanyl.
Okay.
And I did, shortly after that, I communicated to my wife, because she came in for the evening or something, and I signed to her that I had seen Jesus. Who knows what my wife was thinking.
Don't go to the light, honey. Don't go to the light.
Right. There's a number of ways that could go. But that image conveyed in my reflection after it two or more important things. One is that whatever happens to my body happens to the Lord's. And because of that, I'm not alone in this. But I'm going to have to walk through this. It's just I don't have to do it alone. And it's the aloneness that I think is, well, one, if you look at our society writ large, everyone's written on this, that we have an epidemic of loneliness. And that's where the evil one can get in and work, as we just talked about in the predator-prey relationship. So to hear directly from the Lord that I'm not alone, because everything is happening to him and he's right in the bed next to me.
That's a wow.
That'll answer the evil of the other night.
And Jesus did that in 10 seconds?
Yeah, because he's efficient. He's got a lot of houses to visit, as it were.
Suddenly he's Santa.
right. Yeah.
Wow.
No, yeah. So
pause on that for a second here, because
yeah.
I think it's interesting, just to the degree, would you call that one imprinted into your psyche?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's definitely imprinted like an icon.
Okay, let me ask you this then, because it was kind of just flashing in front of me here is the story of Kevin Burpo. He was, 4 or 5 years old and had this near-death experience, saw Jesus and all that. He comes back, and his dad is showing him all the pictures of Jesus. They look like that. They look like that. They look like No. Then finally he sees a painting of Akiana Kromeric, who at age 9, because of how many times she had seen Jesus, she self-taught into painting and painted exactly who Kevin saw. So they obviously saw the same Jesus. She was able to paint it. He was able to recognize it. Did this Jesus, as you saw him, is that face, is it so imprinted that you would say, I know that face?
I would think so. If I saw an art piece that looked like it, yeah, I could probably see it.
Are you familiar with Akiana Kromeric?
I'm not. I'm intrigued, though. I want to, definitely want to see.
Yeah, if you take a look, Kromeric, how she spelled her last name, just like it sounds.
Yeah.
Kromeric, K-R-O, it starts with a K, K-R-O-M-E-R-I-C or I-K, something like that. Or if you happen to read if you know the story of Heaven is for Real and Kevin Burpo, I'm sure through that you can also find your way to it. I would be intrigued to know if anything rings in that.
Yeah, no, I would be as well. I'll look into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly it wasn't so much the physical features of the face as the look in the eyes.
Yeah. Isn't that what everybody says, though? Isn't that what everybody says who has this kind of encounter?
Yeah, absolutely, because you're being looked at. Yeah, being looked at.
Talk about Mary. What aspect of Mary? Comfort.
I mean, she had a wet cloth and was just dabbing his forehead kind of thing, sort of bedside family type care, a look of calm and tranquility and peace and conquest of evil. I mean, it was all like a mishmash of all these the good and holy things.
Would you say you were seeing Mary 2,000 years ago, or were you seeing the resurrected Mary, if you will, that people talk about seeing?
That I don't know. That would be a good question. I mean,
the reason I say is that people who see her now say, "My gosh, she was so beautiful and so this and radiant," and that. Or were you seeing, that beautiful Jewish mother taking care of her son?
Yeah, that I was seeing a mature woman, age-wise, who was taking care of her grown son. So, if our math is right on Jesus's age and her relative age, she would have been about my age. She would have been in her late 40s, early 50s, when Jesus was crucified.
Right.
So that's the sense of age that I got. Jesus in his adulthood, and Mary in the same age that she ministered to Jesus when he died.
And to the degree that the enemy's job, as you say, is to make you feel alone and you're the weakling in the herd, opposite effect of when Jesus and Mary showed up.
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
And how far into this were you? Within the first month was the demon, yes?
Yes, and a couple of days after. So we're at about the month mark, let's say, when that occurred.
Quick pause right here, then back with Robert Koonce. Thank you, Patreon supporters. Thank you, Pam, for helping us out. Thank you, Amy, And Amy knows that sometimes you get stuff when you're a member of the Patreon family.
I like the cups. I still have the yellow Touched by Heaven cup.
Awesome.
And then the miraculous medal. I don't have it anymore. I gave it to my son, but when I received it from you, when I put it on, I felt something go right around me. And I don't know how to explain it, but I figured you must have prayed over it.
Well, it was blessed. I guarantee it was blessed. So
Yes, and I felt like I don't know how to explain it, like a shield go right encircle me.
Thanks for keeping this going week to week, month to month, and so forth in these Touched by Heaven episodes through patreon.com. And any amount is the right amount. Touchedbyheaven.net or patreon.com and search for Trapper Jack. Thank you so much. Let's get back to Robert here on Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God.
So this was my life for about a month like that.
Are you thinking this is life?
Sure. I imagined my life with a permanent disability and what it would look like. And
are you thinking Christopher Reeve?
I don't know if I was thinking him specifically, but I mean, I have known people who've been wheelchair bound or severely, quadriplegic, and it's a heck of an adjustment, but life can still be rich and rewarding. I mean, Trapper, you know that you've lost a major function, can't see anymore, and your life is still rich and rewarding, but it's a heck of an adjustment.
Oh, I'm faking this. I get great empathy. It's great.
That's all it's for, right?
That's all it's for. People drive you places and stuff like that. It's great.
Yeah, you want the attention.
That's all I'm looking for. That's all I'm looking for. Nothing like a white cane to bring you attention. Do you know how long it took me to carry that thing around? Because it's like, I don't want people to know. It's one of those things. Then, try to hide stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But I have to be hoyered out of bed. The machine has to lift me out of the bed. So I'm kind of a mess still. And this physical therapist, Anne is her name, she looks me in the eye and she says, "Today, Robert, you're going to stand." And that's where, I'm glad I could speak. I got my F, back because I said,
you didn't need finger language anymore.
No, you're out of your F, Jaron, for mine. What do you mean stand? Stand. Come on now. She gets an assistant and she puts me between two bars and she got me to stand. And I bawled. I mean, there's just no other way to describe the reaction. And I told her that a month before that day or so, I'd prepared myself to die, and now you had me standing. So all I could think of is the paralytic who was dropped through the roof at the foot of Jesus, where he says, "Pick up your mat and walk." And I know what that feels like on the receiving end. And it became an analogy for me of so much of what we do as baptized Christians is to tell people they can stand, right? You can stand when your child is dying of cancer. You can stand through that addiction. You can stand through that hardship in your life. Whatever it is, you can stand, because the devil wants us to think we can't stand and that we're stuck, and we're not. We can stand. And that's, in all of this, but there's still a miracle. It's a miracle of the Spirit. It's a miracle that one feels the desire to stand, or that you have the willingness to do the work, right? That's a kind of miracle in and of itself. And it was given to me through the hands of caregivers. It was like my woundedness gave me the opening to have the deep conversations with people who are also struggling with a woundedness. And that too, we often, as humans, we put on masks, right? We put on masks. We want to present Instagram perfect versions of ourselves to the world. But those Instagram perfect versions are of no use to ourselves, because we're being dishonest, and to others, because it's our woundedness that connects us. And
It's
And
true.
it's our woundedness that allows us to open doors past the masks to have deep connections, so that, because the masks are a way of keeping us alone, right? And so when the masks are down, we're no longer alone. But it's an act of bravery, and most of our wounds are kind of hidden. They're more mental health kinds of wounds, right? Sadness or depression or various other mental health challenges. And so those are a little we as a society, we're very embarrassed to talk about those things. We don't like to admit them. um, but it, we need a new way of thinking about ourselves in
I
that
know, and
sense, right? So
that's
that
where
we
Jesus
yeah.
wants us, and that's where he takes us and crawls inside
Yes.
our heart in that place. You don't have to dress up for the guy. You know?
No, I mean, he's our savior, and he's butt naked, nailed to a cross, right?
Yeah.
um, as exposed as you can possibly be, because he was clearly in psychological distress as well as physical distress, and completely naked. There's nothing but vulnerability in the image that we put in front of ourselves on a regular basis as Christians. And so that reality just came through to me so abundantly clearly. By the time I was ultimately in inpatient rehab, uh, I was beginning to be able to open my eyes, but my vision was double, which was very
Oh,
disorienting.
gee. So you can finally open
Um,
your eyelids and you see two of everything.
right, and then of course, what happened was when I finally could open my eyes, I couldn't close them completely,
So now you got the
which
light
was
keeping you awake.
well, yeah, except they would put an ointment on my eyeballs at night, keep the eyes from drying out.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But it was as fun as that sounds, right?
By the way, I love your sense of humor, Robert. You're a rock star to me, buddy. You're a rock star. So now, as time moves on, Robert is getting more of his body back. He has enough hands and arm movement now that he can slowly move his wheelchair around. So look out, Robert's out, and he's been trached. So now he's got a valve connected so he can speak a bit.
And once I'm able to speak, I become obnoxious, right? I'd roll out one time I remember rolling out to the nurses station and saying, "Hey, I have an idea. Why don't we take the fifth floor, which is the stroke victims? Why don't we challenge them to a badminton contest? I bet we could kill them." And so the nurses, of course, Robert, you can go back to your room now. Yeah. And so there is also something utterly ridiculous when you're all wheeled down and we're parked next to each other, all of us broken land of misfit toys, stroke victims, people
Line them
missing
up.
legs, just all, and you'd roll up next to someone and you'd say, "Hey man, what you in for?" And, like, "Oh, car accident. I got me an autoimmune disease, bro. And how's your catheter?" And it just gets ridiculous, right? The other thing that came abundantly clearly is the power of humor. When you can laugh at a difficult situation and find some humor in it, then its edge, its sharpness, its pointedness is dulled. It no longer has a hold over you.
There's a release in it too. It's funny when I go out and speak in churches, I always start out with the blind humor first, right?
Sure.
Talk about how I stick it out the driver's side window of my white cane, and traffic will clear when you do that, And
Right,
I just
yeah.
keep going down that road, but there's a release in it because it's kind of it's the elephant in the room,
Totally.
and it needs to be released. And this guy's doesn't take his blindness all that seriously, and then that now you can talk about anything,
Right. Yeah. The humor lightens the difficult situation.
Absolutely.
And coming home, my wife would say things like, "Well, you didn't die. You can do the dishes." So,
You ain't dead yet.
right. Your little vacation is over.
Let's talk about family for a second. Let's talk about
Yeah.
what's your wife's name?
Davina.
In the midst of all of this, I mean, she's got her own hell going on, doesn't she?
She does. As she said, all I had to do was just lie there. She actually did all the work. And in a sense, that's true. We have 4 kids. She had to manage their lives during all this, manage the house, juggling her own work and coming to the hospital. And, it's just, she was in survival mode.
How long before you actually were able to come home and stay home?
So I was hospitalized for just under 70 days. And then I actually didn't go home. I went to my parents' house because they had a first floor bedroom. So I was there for about a month before I was able to comfortably go up and downstairs.
Okay.
And I had my sight back. I still struggle with fatigue and muscle strength issues, a little bit of tingling and neuropathy and numbness.
So what are you, 85%, 90%? What do you think you are?
It's probably 80, 85%.
But did the mind ever take a hit?
No, it didn't.
I think about the people who I know in my life that if this had happened to, God isn't there. They don't go there. They just it's just not a place they go. They're just dealing with, here's my medical world, and it's just here on this physical level. I must, just based on what you've told me, God was always there.
Yes. I never asked why me, because in some ways it's a dumb question, because why not me? Just because I'm religious and faithful doesn't mean I got a nice little bubble wrap around me that says that nothing bad can happen to me. That's not how that works.
And can you imagine doing this without God?
I can't.
Let your mind do a little jumping around here along the way. The blessings, randomly, just jump around.
Well, the blessing of being able to say to a nurse on the night shift who's clearly been having a bad day and say something like, "Hey, tonight, can I offer my pain for you?" Like, your pain really does become a gift.
That has to stop them.
Yeah, I've caught people's attention, but
didn't you always hear a pause
sex.
afterwards? Wasn't there always this pause of
there was a little pause, like, is this one crazy, or what's going on here?
Or what does that mean? Or when they do understand what it means, it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I had conversations about people who've fallen away from the practice of the faith, able to invite them back. Those were a lot of the blessings. The blessing of, in some ways, the relationship with my family was deeper. I mean, my father and I, he would usually, or was often, the last one in the room, or he would be there with my wife and one of my kids, but we would always do night prayer together on the Hallow app. We just put it in and we'd pray together in ways we hadn't before. Interestingly, Psalm 88, which is the prayer of a sick person, it's in night prayer. It's on Friday night that it's said every Friday in the church's prayer, and it's a pretty miserable, wretched prayer, right? Nothing good happens at the end of it, but it was so
how does
powerful.
It start? How does it start?
Well, I am reckoned as one in the tomb is the key verse that would stick out with me, because I was like, oh yeah, I know what that's like.
All about darkness.
It is. It's all about the darkness enveloping you.
And there's no nice little happy ending to it.
No, there's no pink fluffy Jesus at the end to save you from all this wretchedness. It's raw, and it's a perfect prayer.
Wow. You know what you're doing right now, Robert. You know what you're doing right now.
What's that?
Everybody's in the middle of something.
They are.
You're either in the storm, just rolling into it, rolling out of it. It's because if you're not in one's coming. And you're reminding us that in the moment we can say, I offer this up, do something with this, or offer it up for somebody. It's a prayer. It absolutely is a prayer. And since this is my belief, you tell me otherwise. Maybe you're more theologically correct than I am. But in that prayer is outside time, I see no reason why you can't go back in time and say, oh, remember when I went through such and such, God? I want to give that to you. Is there any reason why you can't do that?
I don't see one. Yeah, no.
Right? You're outside time. You can offer up every bit of pain and suffering your entire life, and you can just give it to him now. And you're doing it on an ongoing, and you're actually aware of it. That's what's amazing about you, Robert. You're in the midst of it, you're doing it instead of just collapsing within yourself. Not that didn't happen too, but
sure.
You still would catch yourself and offer it.
Well, I mean, in order for it to be a sacrifice, it does actually have to be a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right. The pain and the discomfort and the sadness and the struggling with the abyss of depression, and that whole fight was real. It's not fake just because Yay, Jesus, right? The fight is real, which is why the prayer of the sick person in Psalm 88 was so powerful. It's like, this is where I'm at right now.
It's a remarkable story. How'd your kids fare through all this?
I did have touching moments with each of them in different ways. My daughters would comb my hair, and take care of my skin. My younger son would hold my hand. My older one was living in California when I got sick because he was finishing college. He actually came home for his 21st birthday and spent it in the ICU with me. So I owe him drinks or something,
Something, man. Something. Or put it into the IV. Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah, right. Yes, wow. Please.
You raise good kids then. You're a good dad.
I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed.
When you look out into the world now, how has it changed you?
I am a little bit even more chill about things. But I guess the best way to describe it was everything's in brighter color. So it's not like I couldn't sit on in a rocking chair on a front porch watching the sunset and not think this is the greatest thing ever beforehand. But now that same act is even more intensely enjoyable. Just having a simple breeze across your face, time with family and friends, all of those simple things just become much more intensely bright.
I always ask my guests, what's the takeaway? There's so much here, Robert. There's just so much here, but how do you sum it up in a takeaway?
No evil has the last word because Jesus is the Alpha and the Omega. He is the first and the last.
What a delight this has been, Robert. What a delight.
Yeah, thank you, Trapper, for allowing me to share with you and whoever has the joy of listening to you.
Thanks again, Robert. The power of offering it up, power being made perfect in weakness, how there is strength in weakness. God doesn't think like us, what he does with our weaknesses and what he does in our imperfections. Thanks again. What is your story? Let me know here at touchedbyheaven.net. Thanks for the Patreon help, patreon.com, or here at episode 373 at touchedbyheaven.net. Hey, thanks for keeping us a 5-star podcast in your apps with your ratings and reviews. And I'll see you next week here on Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack. And Robert, for you personally, what makes Touched by Heaven so listenable?
Well, I also, fortunately, lost my sense of smell. So that was a blessing.